Hey, before we get started, EiEi Podcast is now available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Stitcher. Make sure to check the links below if you're interested. And now, on to the episode. Hello, and welcome to the E or EiEi Podcast, whichever you want to call it. Today, we're talking about Monkey Ball Adventure, and what a great game it is. I'm Kardino, and life is a ball when you're in one.
Hello, I'm Ninjastar, and I'm bad to the bone.
I'm Pixel Pursuit, and I'm the living embodiment of EiEi.
Wow,
Confirmed.
I always knew.
I am Jeff Compass. I hate Monkey Ball Adventure. So there
Wow,
you go.
look at the
Straight
hot
in.
take
Wow.
over here.
You don't even need to hear the rest of this podcast. That's the takeaway. Everyone, thank you for coming out.
Well, we just lost half of viewership.
Maybe we should
All
start
right,
this by talking about what we actually like about Super Monkey Ball Adventure. I'm sure this section will be over quite fast.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure. But, I like the POW box art. I think that's the best part.
There's things I like about this game. So I want to, first off, before we get into that, I do want to say the reason we're here is because a lot of us are working on Monkey Ball Adventure related content. I just got out my 45-minute review. Kardino and Ninja have been working on their own video, and Pixel has done this in the past.
Yeah, it must be getting on for a year ago. Or is it more than a year? I don't know, something like that. I did mine a long time ago, so I've probably forgotten a lot about this game that you're going to have to remind me about.
Oh no!
So there's a lot of Monkey Ball Adventure in the air right now, essentially.
Exactly. It is at the forefront of our minds, except for Pixel. It's more like, kind of
It's
like
there in the depths
halfway
of
to
my
the
mind.
back,
It's a distant nightmare that he's trying to figure out, but we can't.
So, okay, I guess if I were to start with something I like about Adventure, I like the concept, I guess. Like, I like Monkey Ball 2's story mode, so the idea of expanding that into a full game was very interesting in concept. So, I guess that's the best thing I like about Adventure is the concept.
Yeah, I definitely
There's a
agree
few
with that.
things
I
in
think that's
Adventure I
probably
like.
its strongest point, really, isn't it? Like the whole concept around having this kind of open adventure game where you do missions and stuff, but in the universe of Super Monkey Ball. Like on paper, that sounds like it could work. It's just the
That is true.
execution.
It was a good idea. It was a great idea. I mean, that was my main thesis of my review, was this whole game was not doomed. It was a great idea. It was a great concept. Just the execution behind it was just... there's a lot of bad games. Recently, I did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as a review on Shovelware. And it was similar to Adventure in some ways, because it was both games tried to do these unique ideas that didn't work. But the difference between Adventure was Adventure was a good idea. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was doomed from the start, but Adventure was a great idea, and it was just executed poorly, very poorly.
It was, and I wonder how different it would be if it was made by someone else, or if they had more time or something, because I wonder if it was developed internally, if it would have turned out differently.
I mean, maybe, but what you've got to
probably
consider... I mean, Super Monkey Ball Adventure was developed by Traveler's Tales, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're
And it
they're
wasn't
pretty
even, the
good. They
main
know what they're
team.
doing. They were pretty competent developers, especially during the PS1 era. They
I would
actually made
disagree,
the
but-
Toy Story 2 game that I literally just did a video on, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and
They did
I believe
Sonic 3D Blast as well.
And I believe while I recall reading this in an interview, it was actually the side team that they handed the Monkey Ball Adventure project off to, and meanwhile the main team was making Lego Star Wars 2
That makes sense.
over in America, and that game actually turned out very well. I played that as a kid, and now that's a good game. So
There's an alternate universe where the teams are swapped and Legos died to obscurity like the Lego video games, and Monkey Ball Adventure got 10 sequels.
Yeah. It's kind of weird to think, though, isn't
hold
it,
off
that
on
when
my-
Monkey Ball Adventure came out, the whole Super Monkey Ball formula wasn't completely set in stone. So it could have been, like, if this would have been good, like, theoretically, this could have been what Super Monkey Ball became. Like, it might have turned into an adventure series rather than, like, what it is now.
That's kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah, and, like, you know, the thing, too, is I also know that it wasn't completely the team's fault because, you know, they were on a strict deadline to, you know, beat the end of the 6th generation. And, like,
they had to.
From what I understand too, the communication was not the best at all. So there's like, yeah, so as far as the art style, here's like a car commercial or something to base your art style off of.
I feel like we should hold off some of these comments till later.
they couldn't make this game after Banana Blitz because like Banana Blitz rebooted the entire series. Kind of.
Basically.
New designs, new gameplay. Like if you released Banana Blitz first and then Adventure like a year later, it wouldn't make sense. Like you can't do it. Plus it's like then you're going from like Wii to, you know, GameCube and PS2. It just, I don't know, can't do it.
Yeah. Well, you know what they do though is if it was on the Wii, we should be glad it wasn't on the Wii because then they just be like shake the remote to roll the ball or something like that.
Yeah, there would definitely be something
they'd
with the
add some
chants, like some kind of like you actually had to dance to like do the chants or something. There'd be something like that.
You need to pull out the Wii balance board and actually physically do the dance.
God.
Speaking
of the positives, speaking of like how their themes were good, like I love the levels. I think the levels are really cool ideas. I don't love the levels themselves. I love the ideas. Like Zootopia, that's an awesome world.
Yeah.
I love the haunted theme park. I think Fat Cat was a cool branding idea. I think Moonhaven, as painful as it is to play, is an awesome idea. Even like Monkeytropolis, it's like that's a cool idea. Like they had good ideas. I love those themes. I even like the music. Kardino and I disagree on this. I love the music in Adventure. I think it's fine.
I find it incredibly generic, but go on.
So I don't know. I think there were good concepts at play here. So that's I'm trying to speak of the positives. It wasn't a bad.
Right.
No, I would agree with that.
Great idea.
I would agree with that. I like the level theme, and especially the theme park one. Like you say, that one really stood out.
I like the Monkeytropolis and Congra-La. I like how they put them on like the same map just to show like the nations constantly, at war, and like one of them is this bustling city and another is just like this falling apart place that like they're forced to go underground and whatnot. Like that's a really cool world actually, that last one.
Yeah, like you can tell that they were really putting a lot of effort into like sort of make the lore of Super Monkey Ball a lot more expanded. Because like I believe they even make a reference to like Super Monkey Ball 2 right at the start, right? Like they mentioned that they've like fought Dr. Bad-Boon or something like that. Seem to remember.
Yeah.
Another thing I liked about this game is the chant system. I think that was well done
cool.
For the most part. I mean, obviously the chants that they made weren't questionable, but like the actual system I think makes sense. Like the chant do the boxing glove makes sense. Like you see, you have that. So
that's a positive I have with this game. Is like look, like if you look at they tried to be like Monkey Ball, right? You have monkey boxing incorporated. You have it's only like one mission, but you have monkey racing incorporated in the main game. You have Monkey Target you have Monkey Target, which is like, it's in like every world pretty much. So yeah, like they looked at the source material and they tried to make something with it. Did they do a good job? That's a different debate, but they did. It wasn't like some like movie games I've seen where it's like, oh, let's just ignore everything from our source material and just come up with some corporate sicko like imagination.
Yeah, like it doesn't feel like inauthentic. Like it kind of feels like it belongs in the Super Monkey Ball series, even if it is like completely different to any of the others. There's enough of the like sort of like core like things there to make it a part of the overarching series.
And I also like how they incorporated, the traditional levels into like the gameplay. So like, if anything, I wish there were more of them. Where you come across the puzzle gates and you need to play a certain amount of levels in order to progress, and the level designs for those levels are actually pretty good. They look
challenge mode as a whole is good in that game.
Yeah,
I'd go far as to say.
Yeah, that's definitely the mode I have the most fun with, is the challenge mode.
But I'm pretty sure that's what IGN actually said, even when they reviewed it. It's like, now there's a story in an entire world, but we just want to play the puzzle stages.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, one of my favorite parts in the game was in, spoiler alert, if you're spoiled over a 20-year-old game, that's your fault. No, I'm just kidding. But, there's one part where it's, like, in Monkeytropolis, or I think Congra-La, where you get to play, like, 10 levels or something in one room, and it's like, that's the most fun I had with the game, was like, this is, you know, you're playing Monkey Ball here. I like it.
Yeah. I also like the writing. The writing in this game, like, you know, you know, at the first I didn't really like how, like, it you know, juxtaposed, like, this serious story, which I didn't care for, with, like, goofy writing, but, like, some of the jokes in there are genuinely funny looking back on it. Like, you know, I like the assistant who's, like, cut in half and, like, the magician can't figure out how to put her together again.
I think Zootopia as a whole is just like the best written world that
I love Zootopia. I love Zootopia and everything besides gameplay, but Zootopia was, yeah, it was well done. It's funny. There's even, like, good animations. Like in the challenge mode, you see your monkey swaying side to side. In some of the cutscenes, there's one where, like, Gongan just passes out of nowhere, and I just find that hilarious.
Yeah. Like, speaking of the animations, I do like in challenge mode, most of, like, the movement animations, most people are, like, kind of iffy on, but I do like the weird, like, sliding with, like, the hand.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things as well. Like, in the older Super Monkey Ball games, at times, it doesn't really look like they're in a ball, but with Adventure, you can actually kind of see them interacting with it a little bit more, which was interesting.
Adventure definitely feels like they're in the most control over their Monkey Ball of any game.
If only you were in control of your monkey ball. No, just
damn.
Talking about the GameCube version.
That was basically my review. It was just like, there's these positives. Do they outweigh the negatives? And I think the answer, unfortunately, is
yes.
no.
I agree.
I think it's like so close to being fine, but it's just there's too many things that I view are hard to overcome in this game.
I mean, there's absolutely loads of, like, there's loads of annoying things that would have been so easy for them to have fixed, but they just didn't, and it just, like, completely ruins the game.
Yeah, my experience of playing Adventure is like, man, I like this, and just the more you play it, you're like, I want to like it so much, and it just slowly, like, falls apart in front of you. It's
if you just play Jungle Island and, like, never play the game again, I could honestly believe that you would say the game is fine. Like, I think most of the people online, because I do see people like this, who are like, this game's actually good. I love this game growing up. I think they played Jungle Island, a little bit of Zootopia, and that
never
was
played it again.
I really don't think anyone who got to Moonhaven and played it all the way through would seriously say this is a good game. That's my hot take.
That's like my stance on the game, because I didn't play through Moonhaven. I tried to. I couldn't beat, like, the first, like, 3 missions, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, Moonhaven just kind of ruined the entire experience, but, like, I've played this game a couple times now, actually. I played it once a year ago, and then, like, I played it again, I think around February. And the funny thing about this game is you want to, like Jeff said, you want to like it, and you say, oh man, I didn't really enjoy it last time, but, you know, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I'm just exaggerating. Maybe I'll have more fun the second time. And then you play it again the second time, and it isn't really any better at all. So that's the saddest part. Like, it does have serious potential, and it just does not really deliver.
There's some games out there where you can play them over and over, and, like, the game gets better almost. Like, you're like, wow, like, you realize more things about it, you enjoy it more because you know what you're doing. Monkey Ball Adventure is unique because I feel like the more you play it, the, like, less good it is. Like, I feel like I've played this game 3 times in the course of my life, and each time I play it, I am, like, more upset.
Yeah, it's kind of why I vowed to, like, not go back to it, because I've only played it the one time, and I feel like I kind of respected it in some areas, and I don't want to then replay it and, like, just completely hate it. I'd rather just keep my memory of it, like, reasonably positive.
Yeah, with me, the only time I boot it up anytime anymore is just to play the challenge mode, like, once or twice, and then never play it ever again. I don't even touch story mode. I'm like, I already know that's a lost cause.
I guess this is, like, spoilers for my review, I guess. But I also said, like, you know, I really like how you can unlock stuff in the shop with the bananas you collect and whatnot, and, you know, you have this whole roster of characters by the end and stages and modes. And I was saying it's almost more incentive to actually play the story mode than the actual story itself. So
that's true. Yeah, I completely forgotten about that. That is
implementation.
interesting because it was almost like a more in-depth version of the playpoint system from Super Monkey Ball 2 because there was kind of more to unlock. Like you even unlocked like new levels for like Monkey Race and stuff in the store. So that was cool.
You unlocked even like NPCs to play as in the minigames. That's a great idea. I love that. That is like, I really wish that was done more almost in like any Monkey Ball game, which it kind of was in Banana in Banana Mania where you unlocked more characters. But that was a great idea. That's something I think they took from Lego games actually, like the Lego games design philosophy. Because every Lego game I've played, there's like 100 characters you can unlock. Yeah, so they were. True. I think that's what they were kind of going for, if I understand.
Yeah, and that turned out well. So
that was cool. I love playing as like some random NPC, like monkey robot in a minigame, like the grandpa monkey, just flying out of a cannon and blowing up into a box of buildings. I love that. That was funny. I like that.
The PSP version also has like the trump cards, which were kind of like a cool concept. The problem is they're only on the PSP version, and like there was some level of replayability because they scattered each card between like the 4 different characters. So you like actually have to play the story mode multiple times to get them all. Which obviously if the game was actually good, that would have been a cool feature. But as is, it's just kind of like
that's more of a
curse.
I'm
not a fan of that though. Like I'm not like a fan though of like making you play as a specific character. Like I think Mario 3D Land did that too. It's like, oh, if you want this stamp, then you have to play the stage as Luigi. And it's like, okay, but I don't really want to have to play as Luigi,
Yeah, it's kind of like artificial.
Yeah, it's really frustrating in 3D World. I was playing 3D World over in March. It's really frustrating, like, playing a level. You get in, you see the stamp, you're like, oh, cool, I can't do everything in this level right now. I have to exit.
At least there's only a few levels that do that. There aren't many, are there, from what I remember?
Yeah.
So it's not too bad.
There's only like 3.
I think there's
it's not a huge deal,
but yeah.
I think it's better. I think in 3D World, what would have been better is if like it's like, oh, like you have to use Luigi's extra jump to get this, or like Peach can only float over here, stuff like that.
Yeah, rather than it just being like a switch.
But like this isn't about 3D World.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, getting back into Monkey Ball Adventure. Is there any more positives with the list?
I don't think so.
I mean, I like the 2D art of the characters. I think the art direction for the 2D stuff is actually pretty good.
I agree, except there's also like an equal amount of them that are very like unfinished and rushed.
That's
especially in the PSP version.
I'm sure I've said more positive in my own review, but like I've already blocked that out of my memory.
I guess the last one I can think of off the top of my head is that the PS2 version has cross-saving with the PSP version, which is cool.
And I do like how they use like multiple Brian Matt clips, instead of just using like the one.
Oh yeah, that's true. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, that was actually quite good.
Because sometimes you'll finish the stage and you'll get like a classic like goal, and sometimes you get like kind of a sarcastic like goal.
Or it's sometimes just like it's really funny when like he's like ready go or something, and then like at the end he's just like goal.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. There's even like the junior goal noise, which is my favorite. So that's cool.
I think that's it with positives. Anyone else have any?
I don't think so. I think we're kind of like approaching the bottom of the barrel with this stuff.
So to be fair, we came up with about 20 minutes of good things to say. So now let's go on for the 2 hours of bad things now.
So, where should we really begin? I guess we should just begin with like...
There's too much to begin.
I guess we could start with like, the story, I guess. That's like the biggest, it's an adventure game.
I'm gonna defend the story because I think that even though the story is obviously rubbish and it's not really there for most of the game, it's not really necessary for it to be there. Like, the story is kind of just there as an excuse to make you go through the levels, right? Like, I don't know, I didn't really have that much of a problem with the story. Maybe it could have done with like a more central bad guy, but other than that, I don't really mind it.
I do kind of agree, because like there's no real incentive otherwise, which I'm sure we'll get into, but
I'm gonna agree with Pixel here. I mean, I'm just one who doesn't really care about story in games. Like, it doesn't bother me in Sonic that much if there's no story. Monkey Ball, I honestly just skipped through it. Like, I did some surface level discussion in my review, but it's like, I just want to play the game, you know? Like, I don't really care too much, so therefore I don't think the story bothered me. It's dumb, right? It's probably a dumb story, but, like, does it need to be Twilight? Does it need to be, like, you know, the Great American Novel? Like, it's just a dumb game.
No, but on
like, it doesn't bother me.
No, but to your point, though, they already made a better story in Monkey Ball 2, where it was a side mode.
That's true.
Like, why did they make a good, like, you know, it didn't take itself seriously. It was a fun side mode, and then they made a game that was supposed to expand on the story. It's in the name, and then the story feels very, you know, it feels very generic, and like, you know, it's like, oh no, let's base it off of real world politics. That's a good story, you know. It's like, yeah, sure, you know, and every subplot feels anticlimactic.
I will say that the story is like you could very easily ignore the story when you're playing.
I pretty much.
There's not really like, you're not that invested. You're like, oh, there's a wedding, I guess. Oh, there's a prince and princess.
I think the thing is with this is that Super Monkey Ball 2 had a really good story mode because it was like all wacky and stuff, and it was like well presented as well with its cutscenes. But that's kind of like just a bonus. Like that's kind of just one of the things that makes Super Monkey Ball 2 like really, really good. But it wouldn't have been necessary. So, yeah, although it's amazing that it does have that, I don't know, you can't really hold that against Adventure too much, because Adventure doesn't really rely on its story too much.
But that's the thing, though. Like, yeah, I don't think you need to do, like, a linear, like, you know, a bunch of cutscenes and whatnot necessarily. But I feel like for a game that is advertised and it was designed for having a story, they should at least have made more of an effort to make it more, you know, memorable.
Yeah,
like,
true.
I would much rather.
There really is
play
only,
Monkey Ball
from what I
2's
remember, there's only
story,
like
you know?
one memorable thing that ever happens in Super Monkey Ball Adventure, right? And that, for me anyway, that was the whole thing with Fat Cat. That's the only thing that I really remember in any detail.
I actually think Zootopia was the biggest letdown for me because the premise was good, and then you climb up the tower, you know, which is an experience in and of itself.
Oh god. Yeah.
And then I remember I was raging on that every time I have to go through it. But you know, you reach the tower and you're building this up, and then it's like, oh, now you turn off the power, and then the gates open. Except no one leaves because they just want the option to leave. Because joy is something that you should feel in your heart instead of it measured by a corporate robot. It's like, that is the most anticlimactic story I think I've ever seen in almost any series, you know? So, like, that is just one of the subplots.
My biggest issue with the story, and Pixel kind of touched on this a few minutes ago, is the lack of, like, a main antagonist. Listen, I don't care about story in games, personally. I'm kind of a rare exception. I really, unless it's like a JRPG or something, I'm okay with skipping cutscenes in a game. Like, if it's like a Mario or Sonic game, I usually skip cutscenes, if I'm being honest, unless it's, like, voice acting.
Well, yeah,
so
but it's a Mario
exception
game.
to that. But if it's, like... My biggest issue with the story and adventure was that you get to the end of the game, and this is spoilers, you'll live. It's not... listen, you can go, like, just add these in the video if you want to be avoiding the spoilers. It's an old-ass game, though, so I hope no one's bothered.
If anything, we're doing you a favor because you don't need to play it.
Yeah. At the end of the game, it's like, you finally reunite the two lands, you go back to the main jungle island, you do another climbing section, you're like, okay, what's the end of the game gonna be? Are we gonna have, like, a boss? Is it gonna be, like, something where you have to use all of your chance creatively? And the end of the game, the final quote-unquote boss, is you play a game of Simon. Like, the monkeys, like, jump on these panels. It's like red, green, blue, red, and the game literally just ends after that. That is the worst ending to, like, any video game I think I've ever played. Like, it's not even bad as a game. It's just, like, so... That's probably the most underwhelming moment in video game history.
I think, like, that is so underwhelming that I legitimately don't even remember doing that. I literally don't remember that part of the game.
Like, I kind of get it to an extent that a boss fight is not easy to do with this engine and game. Like, it's hard, right? But, like, they could have done something better than that.
I mean, you already had the naysayers. Like, as much as, you know, I think that concept could be improved, I think one of those ways was, like, bosses. Like, you know, when you complete the joy in a world, the naysayers are supposed to be, like, you know, the embodiment of sadness or whatever in the world or whatever. So, like, if you're spreading joy, why not have naysayer bosses that, you know, make you use your abilities that you learned, you know? But, like, they just don't do it. They always make you do some underwhelming mission, and it's like, alright, the story's over.
That's true. I will say, the ending of the game probably would have been more impactful if you had to do, like, a naysayer boss, and then, like, the final climb up the tree was, like, just like a little reward before, like, the cutscene or something. That would have been better.
It's just anything. Like, I don't know. My idea was like a Mario Galaxy type of boss, where it's like you use the sticky ball to climb up like a giant, you know, object. I remember there was like one mission in Galaxy, or like I guess you could also say Shadow of the Colossus or something like that. Which I get it. It's Monkey Ball Adventure. It's nowhere on that budget, but it's just like you could have tried. They could have tried to do just about anything else, and it probably would have been better. I would have rather had a bad boss that, like, was not fun to play than just a game of Simon, because it's just like...
Yeah.
I would have at least respected the fact that they tried at the end, at least a little more.
Yeah, it is really a shame, because, like, you know, you brought up the example of Mario and whatnot for story and minigames, right? But, like, I kind of view it the same way. Like, if Monkey Ball 2 did not have to have a story, because, like, Monkey Ball 1 didn't. So, like, I view it like, if I were playing just a regular Mario game, then, like, yeah, I don't really care about the story. But if I'm playing Paper Mario or Mario Luigi, then I expect a bit more of a story, and that's kind of how I feel about Adventure. But, like, it's as if they just didn't really... It's as if they didn't really try. They're just like, yeah, so, you know, Moonhaven, there's this place in the sky that you gotta fix or else it will be overrun by monsters or something, and they don't even elaborate. They're just like...
It's all a little bit, like, random,
so
isn't
like,
it? It's just kind of like they're making it up as they go along, and they couldn't be bothered to come up with some sort of, like, overarching, like, cohesive story.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Each world has its own unique story premise, and it doesn't work that well. Like Kardino was saying, it just doesn't flow, and it doesn't feel cohesive at all. Like in the police or in Monkeytropolis, you're like moving up the police ladder. Like every mission you do, a monkey's like, "Oh, you just moved up to sergeant." I don't know the police.
Yeah, or like chief of police like, by the end.
It's like, what is it? Like, it doesn't feel like it has anything to do with the rest of the game. Like,
well,
it just feels like its own place, and it's just weird.
Well, like, to be fair, I don't think the chief of policing, you know, climbing up that ladder isn't a bad idea, because you're earning the trust of Monkeytropolis, and then at the end you realize, oh wow, I've been, you know, helping, you know, one side of this war. Now the Congri-La people, I forget what they're called, are, you know, are now have their own problems because of the stuff I did for them. So, like, you know, I can see what they were going for. It just, you know, you can kind of see the story a mile away, and it just feels it's much like the rest of the game. It feels very half-baked, I think, is the thing.
Yeah. Alright, we're done with the story, I was gonna move on.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say on a similar note, like, because the story doesn't, like, you know, give you any real motivation, another problem the game has is that there's no real, like, sense of progression most of the time. You're just kind of, like, doing a bunch of missions and it just kind of ends.
I think there's a little bit of a sense of progression in the way that you learn the new chants that, like, open up new missions for you to do, and the fact that you unlock new levels as well. But yeah, I do agree with you that, like, some of the missions, it kind of just feels like you're doing them for the sake of it, and it's not really, like, adding to anything. So yeah, I agree with you to an extent.
On that point, Pixel, like, you unlock new chants. This is one of my least favorite things about Adventure, is that in the middle of the game, you have Monkeytropolis, or no, excuse me, you have Moonhaven and you have Zootopia, and you need to like go to each world for a little bit, get chance here, get chance there before you can complete another one. Which, on paper, that's not even really that bad of an idea, and it's not that uncommon in video games. But I feel like it's an issue with adventure because it's like the whole game is so confusing, and so many of the missions are unclear what you're supposed to do in the first place.
I 100% agree. It's very, very annoying because you just come up to missions, and it doesn't tell you that you need a specific ability to do them. And it just causes this situation where you keep repeating them, thinking like, wait, how am I supposed to do this? And then later on, when you unlock the ability, it just makes you annoyed at it more than anything. Because it just should have given you that information straight up.
It doesn't help that the game's in kind of like a non-linear order, so you'll go for like a whole world like Zootopia, for example, because you'll go through Monkey Island, it's pretty linear for the most part, you know, you just keep playing it to get to like the bell ring, then you go back to the king, whatever, but in Zootopia, like, you just do a bunch of missions, it's like, okay, and then, like, now what? Like, there's no real sense of progression. You actually have to go to Moonhaven. But it's like, how are you supposed to know idea? Like, there's no, like, collectible system. There's nothing for you to, like, motivate you. It's just like, I guess I just did a bunch of missions. And I can't progress, so I guess I'll just go to Moonhaven. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You feel, like, super lost the entire time you're playing the game.
Yeah, I think I actually said in my review that I actually started enjoying the game a lot more when I started using a guide to like know where I was supposed to be going next. Because if I hadn't have started doing that, not only would it have taken me so much longer to get through the game, but I just wouldn't have been enjoying myself like at all. I probably would have stopped, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, you know, and some of the missions too are just not very good. Because like, for example, the one I always remember is the roller coaster one, where it's like, oh no, you gotta derail this roller coaster or whatever. So like, you're like, okay, well, I know my boxing glove, so if I punch the roller coaster off the tracks, you know, and you know, you try that and it doesn't work. So you're like, all right, well, maybe I have the scalar ball, I know that, so maybe I can stop the train that way, and like, it doesn't work. So you try everything you can think of, and like, it just, nothing happens. Well, it turns out you're supposed to go there after you go to Monkeytropolis and learn the speedball so you can run into it from behind, because that's how physics works. It actually doesn't, but you know.
I was actually able to do that without that power-up. That being said, Ninja was in a voice call with me that day that I was playing.
Yes, I was.
And it was this, and I think Ninja can testify, it was the exact same experience.
It was
like,
we
were trying every chant we could think of. And you know why? I think I said this in my review. There's one pivotal moment that determines that as the player. The roller coaster doesn't start near you. It starts 35 seconds. I timed it. It starts 35 seconds away from you. That goes against every instinct you might have as a player, because you're like, no way I have to wait 35 seconds. Like, no game designer would make me do it. There's something I should be doing. But no, the roller coaster is genuinely 35 seconds out. So I tried going from behind. I tried going with the scalar ball. I tried sticky ball to see if that did anything. No, you have to just wait 35 seconds and then chase it, which is really bad game design.
Yeah,
it just goes against all of your instincts.
It's just really poorly conveyed to the player. Like, I don't think the text ever says anything like "chase down the train," which was that's what they should have said.
No, it doesn't. It's just like derail the train. Yeah, it just says
derail the train. Like, so it's like, okay, do I hit it from the side? Do I hit it from the front? Do I get a power? Like, they don't say anything. They should have said like, go chase down the roller coaster or something, and then have it like spawn near you, like you said. So you immediately passes by you and you're like, oh, I gotta go chase that down. Like, they don't do that. They do everything to make that not clear. Okay,
a game like Grand Theft Auto for something, when they show like the car you're supposed to be chasing or whatever, you know, something like that, it's not just done as like an, oh, this is cool visually. It's done to tell the player this is what you're supposed to do. It gets it in your head. This is exactly what you're supposed to do. But in this game, good luck. You're figuring it out all by yourself. They don't give you any hints or advice. And the word I used to describe this game in my review is that it's unfriendly. Like, this game doesn't help out the player at all.
Yeah, and there's other things like that as well that's like the exact same issue, where it's just something that they could have done so easily that would have made your life so much easier. So like, they could have given you like more hints as to what you're actually supposed to be doing. They could have told you what ability you need for certain missions. They could have given you a map. That's another thing. There's no map in the game. Why isn't there a map?
Yeah.
And what else is there?
It's just
Like,
There's a very loose
they could have,
map.
There's like
and
some
one of the main
compass or
things, one of
something.
my main issues with the game, if not my biggest issue with the game, is that there's no restart function for any of the missions. So like, some of the missions will have you like going across the map, and if you fail them, you have to go all the way back to the NPC to restart the mission. And it's just like, what the hell? Why not just let you restart from where you are? It's ridiculous.
There's a few layers to that, right? Like on a surface level, if you fall, you really shouldn't even have to end the mission. But let's say you do fall. Let's say that's what they wanted to do. If you fall, you have to start the mission over. At the very least, they should have respawned you right next to that monkey or given you like a, do you want to try again? But let's say they didn't even want to do that. Let's say they want you to go talk to that monkey again. Okay, you fall off, you land in a completely different part of the map, like you're saying. And it's not easy to get back to that monkey, mind you. In Moonhaven, you gotta do like a bunch of platforming and a bunch of obstacles to get back to that monkey. So they didn't just butcher it on like 1 or 2 levels, like they totally just went all out in just making that like the worst experience possible for the player there. And that pisses me off.
Moonhaven especially, yeah, it is really bad. I remember when like you had to I remember when like you were in that, I think it's called the Undercity or whatever, where it's like that big spiral ramp with all the obstacles, and then like you're doing something at the very top, like, oh, I need to feed the fire beast or whatever it is, and like you fall off, and then you start off at the very bottom, and you're just like, oh, come on. And of course the skybox glitches out while you're falling too, so that's a very nice attention to detail.
It's literally like a minute to get back. I'm not even like trying to be funny. It's literally like a minute, if not longer, to get back. That's like by far, Moonhaven is like by far the worst level of the game. I think we can all agree on that.
I think we all collectively agree on that.
Yeah, it's like, and the sad thing is, it's probably one of the more interesting levels for me as far as, potential design go, because it's actually like a monkey ball level. You're in the sky and you're like, on these machines or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, this is kind of like a monkey ball stage, but translated into a world. But like,
it was a great idea.
It's just not that good, especially, which if you don't mind, I'd like to go on a side tangent. The GameCube controls are far worse for no reason at all. You're locked to 8 directions on the GameCube, which, might I add, is the same console that the original games were on and had excellent controls. So now your controls are gimped, you're on this stage that is, very easy to fall off of, and then randomly the camera will just swing around and you'll be going in the completely wrong direction and you'll fall off again. And just like, it's like they're trying to go out of their way to make Moonhaven the worst experience possible.
That's true. We actually tested it, me and Kardino did, and the PS2 and PSP version I think control very slightly better than the GameCube version or something like that.
That's funny because the reason that I
like,
reviewed the GameCube version was because I was thinking that the controls would be better after my experience going through Deluxe and then moving on to the GameCube ones, and I didn't want to make that same mistake again, but this time it's the reverse. It's just like they're messing with me.
Yeah, the GameCube version is actually the worst version of the game as far as content
it's an
goes.
interesting comparison to say. It's like that's an issue I have with this game, is that like, ignoring that, like if you look at the graphics in comparison to the first 2 games, it looks a lot worse. I think
really
it runs
does.
fine, but like Monkey Ball 2 had progressive scan in like what, 2002, and this game in 2006, nearly a year after the Xbox 360, still runs at 480i, which if Monkey Ball 1 and 2 didn't come out, I think Monkey Ball Adventure would be like okay graphically. But like the fact that we have that comparison, I think, and that Adventure looks significantly worse, was something that was a huge detriment to me as a player, because it just made the game feel very cheap to me.
Yeah, I think that's just the thing, isn't it? With Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2 were a lot more like minimal, weren't they? There weren't as many like assets, there wasn't as much going on, so they could really make it look as good as possible. But with Adventure, there's a lot more to it, so they kind of were a bit like, I don't know, like a bit... They couldn't use the hardware to its full potential, I guess.
I don't even know if it's that.
I would
as much
disagree
as, like,
with
Traveler's Tales just didn't... I don't even know if it's as much as that, or much as like Traveler's Tales just didn't know how to do it as well as SEGA did.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Get that feel down.
I also think it was definitely because it was ported to the PSP probably too. But you know, I compared it because I've played 480i games before. Not Monkey Ball. Star Wars 2, funny enough, which was the game their main team was working on, also ran in 480i. I think it had a progressive scan option, but you know, by default it runs in 480i, and it looks fine. For some reason, everything's just kind of looks blurry in the game, and like I say in my script, it's like how in Monkey Ball 1 they had like the heat waves in the desert to kind of blur everything a little bit, except that's how the entire game looks. I'm just like, you know, it really does make me think that the GameCube version was like almost like an afterthought, just like, all right, well, let's build this to the PSP and then port it to the GameCube in minimal time. You know,
I think that was definitely the case, just because of how many features are just like removed from the GameCube version, and there's a lot of things that are just like blatantly worse. Like whenever you take a photo in like the GameCube version, it's like half the resolution of the FOV.
It's like 2 pixels.
While like on PS2 it's like perfectly fine. You can tell it's just like a rush job pretty much.
I think it was done last minute, and I think it was done last minute because they realized if they just released it on PSP, it wasn't going to sell well. They might have looked at like, on a much smaller scale, they might have looked at, or larger scale, they might have looked at like how the GTA games that they made for the PS2 or PSP did, Vice City Stories and Liberty City Stories. They might have saw that it just wasn't as successful as if they put it on a home console. And I think last minute that might have just made them be like, we need to put this on GameCube, we need to put this on PS2. Because it really feels like they built this for the PSP.
I would disagree
really
personally, because the PSP version runs like absolute trash on story mode. I feel like it was made for both the PS2 and the PSP. Would be my favorite.
The PSP version to me just looks the best, which is why I say that. Like, it looks crisp.
That is
Frame
true.
rate's a little bad. So the reason I feel that way, and plus it has the monkey trumps and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was like PSP version was forefront, then they were like, let's do a PS2 co-release, then they were like, oh, GameCube sells the best, let's put this on GameCube as well, and it kind of just got worse with each iteration.
It might,
you know?
That's probably more likely, because I do think, even if it started development on PSP, I think they prioritize PS2 as far as everything goes.
I almost would think that PS2 was the first thought, because the PS2 has the cranks or whatever, and then there's like, all right, well, let's do the PSP version, and we'll add some extra features since it's PSP, and it'll be an incentive to buy it. And then GameCube was last, or something.
I think that's the most likely case. That would make the most sense.
It is weird though, isn't it? How every single version of that game is quite drastically different. Like, you don't really tend to get that with that era of games. Like, normally they're all pretty like standard across the board.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I think what happened was they made the PS2 version, then they made the PSP version, but then they realized the PSP version was like weird and didn't really run that well, so they added all like this exclusive content. And then obviously when they made the GameCube version, because it was such a rush job, they had to like remove a bunch of stuff that was like between the PSP and PS2, like the cross saving, meaning there's no future EiEi. Then obviously you couldn't have like the card system game because it was no online or anything like that.
I suppose like the PS2 version would be technically the definitive edition. I guess, because like, you know, it has the best graphics, you know, technically. It has the cranks, which is its own drawback, but like, you know, it doesn't have the control problems of the GameCube so far as I know, and like, you know, it still runs decently well. So I suppose if I were to recommend you play Adventure, which I wouldn't anyway, but you know, if you were to choose one, I guess I'd say PS2. Which is funny enough, because PS2 versions are often the worst versions of most games.
I did play it mainly on PS2, so I will say, like, I know certain graphical effects and stuff are better too, like the Invisiball has a bit of like a distortion effect to it, rather than just being like translucent.
Which again is
just,
completely
like,
backwards to how it was with Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2, where the PS2 version was like so much worse than the original GameCube versions. It's so weird how they did that.
Yeah, that was weird. I know, like, the PS2 version actually has, like, more facial animations and stuff. Like, the kids will, like, blink during cutscenes, and, like, they'll have, like, there's, like, this weird smile face they do sometimes that's, like, more often on the PS2 version. Because I guess it's weird. It's interesting. I'll bring up future
but It's not like we're ever gonna know about this because it's just like no one ever talks about this game. The developers never really talked about this game. It's like we can only speculate, really, which is weird.
Yeah.
Well, there was that Retro Gamer magazine interview that they did, and like, you know, looking back on it, it even said, like, I think the developer actually said, yeah, this game was almost good. And I was like, well, maybe if you gave it like 6 months to a year, maybe it would have been better.
I don't
but
even know if
then,
it would have
like,
needed that much. Like, literally, some of these fixes that we've talked about, you would have thought that this would have been possible in like a month. Like, if this game had been like, if they would have been able to have like done a patch, this probably would have been fixed to a degree anyway in like a month.
Yeah.
Right, and like, think about it. Like we were saying at the start of this review, Banana Blitz was like 2 months out, 3 months out. So if there was a world where Banana Blitz like didn't put that type of pressure on them, we might have gotten a really decent, you know, adventure game. I don't think the game would ever be like a 10 out of 10, but like it would certainly be at least like a 7 or an 8.
Yeah,
you know?
literally just with the one option to restart missions, I think it would be so much more like playable than what it is. Just with that one thing.
That is true.
I go so far as to say too, though, that like some of the missions just like, for example, in every world they make you pick up trash. I was like, oh yeah, because that's a good mission and use of sticky ball.
I completely forgot
Actually,
about
like
that.
that,
you can climb up
that.
And it's
I actually
like you
that
get
mission.
sticky ball. You get sticky ball and you're like, oh cool, I can climb up walls. This is gonna be cool. I can climb up buildings and whatnot and find different places. Like, no, you can go to, you know, these few select locations with jank physics that have, you know, that are clearly marked so there's no mystery. And then the rest of the time you can pick up banana peels in a maze because that's good game design.
I will argue that the picking up bananas in a maze mission is actually not that bad. I feel like they make more sense as a Monkey Ball mission than like the balloon mission. We have to grab one balloon, one at a time, each time, and if you talk
there is
to the NPC,
no excuse for that.
if you talk to the NPC at all, you restart the entire mission because of course.
Which is bullshit. Thank you very much. Alright, sorry to censor that.
It's like no, you don't talk to them to give them the balloon. You run into him to give him the balloon. That makes sense. Yeah.
There is no excuse for the balloons being one at a time. That was one of the worst things. Like, there's no excuse. Like, if you can do all the trash at once, why do you have to go for each balloon? And to add insult to injury, sometimes the balloons are like right next to each other. So you have to like get that balloon, take a 2-minute hike to get back, then go to the same exact location just to do that again.
There's like 5
Like,
balloons
what?
like all the way across the entire map. Like if you could pick up like 2 or 3 balloons at a time, it'd be so much more playable. But they didn't do
Just
that.
like,
So.
and yeah, like the monkey, if you talk to him, he's like, "Are you stupid?" And then like, if you say yes, because like that's how you continue any other mission in the game is you say yes, I want to continue. The mission starts over.
I feel like they
what are
must have done
thinking?
that as a joke. That must have been a joke.
Yeah.
They must. That had to have been some developer just laughing his butt off and just saying like, just being a complete jerk.
And I will say too, though, that if I were to think of good missions, I do like the photography missions, which I think Jeff thinks differently. But you know,
I just
like
want
how
if the mini map wasn't so bad, I think it'd be fine.
But it's just like, oh man, you get to this location in, I think it's like 30 seconds or less, and it's usually some platforming challenge. And it's like, okay, this feels like a natural mission in a Monkey Ball game, you know, as opposed to, again, picking up trash.
I still don't mind that mission. I really think it's okay. Yeah.
One of the worst things that you do in the game that, like, I had forgotten about actually until you mentioned it earlier, Cardino, like the naysayers. Right, did anybody else get really, like, stuck with beating some of them? Because it was just, like, so unobvious as to what you needed to do.
I got so sick of the naysayers. I used to, like, try every single way to get around them. Like, in Zootopia, there's a couple that, like, completely block you off. I would, like, get hit by them. So I'd land, like, at an angle, like, directly right next to them and then roll past them instead of actually trying to fight them.
There's the fire-breathing naysayers that, like, you're supposed to defeat them by turning into a wood ball. Get on fire when they spray the fire at you, and then hit them with that, which, like, I'm sorry. That doesn't really... I'm not gonna say it's, like, the least... I'm not gonna say it's, like, the most cryptic thing that's ever been in a video game, but, like... That really just doesn't go with your instincts as a player, I feel
No, because
like,
you would think that using wood ball would be weak against fire, if anything, right? Because it would burn the wood.
Well, I'm not sure. Like, I would disagree. Maybe I managed to find this out because, you know, just the first use of the wood ball you get is to light yourself on fire to melt ice or whatever. So, like, I didn't mind the fire naysayers. It was the one where, like, they swallowed you and you have to, like, use a scalar ball that I didn't get at all.
That's the one that got me stumped for ages, that one. I hated that.
No.
I didn't know how to get past that. I really didn't. And that's just, like, it's not an obvious... I think both naysayers just really aren't obvious. But to the credit of the game developers, I did read the instruction manual. I think both are explained there. But listen, like, as time progresses onwards, people are not going to have the manual as often.
I have all three
nowadays,
manuals. You have no excuse.
Okay, what I'm saying is, like, people who buy this game at, like, a garage sale for, like, 2 cents, or someone who buys it on Amazon disc only.
Yeah.
Or just, you know, sometimes the game doesn't come with the manual.
Yeah, I think by the
people, like, play it on
PS2
emulator.
era, they should have gotten past needing to read the manual for stuff. Like, by that point, technology was advanced enough to, like, have all of the story, like, actually in the game, and all of the information in the game. So, yeah, it really should have just been in the game.
I will object to that, though, because, like, you know... Like, I would disagree because, like, should we really fault the developers for saying, oh, in 20 years someone might not find the manual? They're just like, well, you know, is that really... I don't think that's really fair because by that logic, we should blame the developers of Deluxe for not having it perfectly run on the Xbox 360 for emulation. It's like, oh, this game might not emulate perfectly in the future. We should have planned around that.
I don't think that's a similar... I think the core issue is that it doesn't even matter talking about the future. I think that it should be obvious in the game itself when it comes out. You shouldn't have to
That's a fair
rely
critique.
on
Yeah, I get that.
You shouldn't have to... that's just kind of gets... I'm just trying to, like, bring those up to my point. But, like, that's the point I'm trying to get to, is, like, it's not... You shouldn't have to rely on that extra step. The NES era, that makes sense. Games barely ran back then. You kind of needed to have a little extra oomph there.
And even the N64... Even the N64 is just like, oh, this is an entirely new generation of games. We should have manuals to explain how things work to the player, you know?
I think it was warranted with the N64 and PS1 because that was where, like, 3D games debuted, and also manuals tended to also explain the story in more detail because obviously cutscenes weren't, like, as big of a thing. But like I say, with the PS2, like, I don't know, game design had kind of progressed by that point. Like, we shouldn't need to be relying on a manual to explain things.
Yeah, let's not forget, this came out 2 months before the Wii and PS3 release, and the Xbox 360 was already out. It's not like this is early early 6th gen.
Yeah, true.
It's like...
When I play a video game, I want to be able to just have the controller, I want to have the TV, preferably a couch to sit on. But... what I don't want is, like, having, like, manuals spread out throughout my floor. Like, I just want to be able to... I want to know what to do just by looking at the TV screen. That's how I felt about it.
You shouldn't lock in, like, integral game mechanics behind, you know, like, the manual. It's kind of bad game design at that point.
It was very bad. That. I think it's fair to have the manual give you hints, but it shouldn't, you know...
Absolutely. It should be a supplement, though.
Exactly.
It should be something that helps you. It shouldn't be like you must be looking at the manual to figure out these enemies. It should be something, because at that point, why don't you just go on Google and, like, watch a walkthrough, you know? Like, if you need extra stuff, just... I don't know. It pissed me off. That's just a side deviation. I didn't talk about that in my review.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. And, like, you know, again, it's also important to remember this is 2005 too. So, like, in a way it's worse because you couldn't just really go on the internet. Like, I guess the best you had was GameFAQs. And, like, you know, I don't know if there's how many walkthroughs of Monkey Ball Adventure GameFAQs had.
That's what I used to get through the game, actually. So at least one exists.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. I was gonna get back to the whole structure of the game, how it's made. I feel like one thing that could help the game a lot is if there's some kind of, like, collectible system. I know it's a very generic thing to add to the game, but, like, when you have, like, no real driving force like the game has, it would make more sense if, like, you know how you have to get, like, a certain amount of completion to beat a world or whatever? Like, let's say it was like, let's say you collected, like, a golden banana or something. Let's say, like, Donkey Kong 64 or whatever. Like, let's say, like, oh, you need X amount of golden bananas to make it to Moonhaven or something. Like, let's say, like, you try warping to Moonhaven, it's like, oh, no, you need this many whatever bananas.
Yeah, it's almost like...
It's like, okay, I guess I gotta go to
It's kind of a
Zootopia
situation
first,
where it almost could have had a main collectible, because, like, you're doing the missions, and it's just like a percentage increases. But instead of having a percentage,
like,
they could have, like, given you, like you say, like a golden banana or something at the end of every mission.
Yeah, like, it's like it's begging for a collectible.
Yeah.
Like a power star.
Or like what if you had like you added like something like a map to a shop, and the map would, or like a scroll to a shop where it's like an ancient scroll and it tells you the directions or the chant to get to this world or something.
Yeah. You
And that's how you unlock that.
You can even pull like a Mario Odyssey and have it be like related to like the wedding ceremony or something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, if you beat this naysayer boss at the end of Zootopia, you get like, I don't know, like a dress or something.
From a game design perspective, like purely game design, like in Mario Odyssey, right? You get the little moon. It's so satisfying. You get like a little jingle. It just feels really good to collect. Like you could even argue some things like that in Breath of the Wild or other modern games. But like in Adventure, it's really not satisfying to see the joy just go up like 3.
What?
Like I didn't even notice that until this playthrough, to be completely honest.
All you get is the auto-saving icon. That's all you get for being a mission.
So it just feels like you're just kind of like, and that's purely from a game design, like I don't know the right word, but like aesthetic perspective, maybe, just like a, quality of life type of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, you don't really feel satisfied playing this game. You just feel kind of like sad.
You feel just kind of bored more than anything, which to me, like, that is the worst thing a game can be, is boring, because like that's kind of the opposite of what a game is supposed to be. And Monkey Ball Adventure, if not frustrating, it's boring. That's the worst problem.
You can make like the most broken game of all time, but if it's still fun, there will still be plenty of people that will be like, this is actually okay. It's like, when you get Monkey Ball Adventure, like, nobody wants to play it, because it's just not interesting.
Like, Sonic 06 is so bad that it's funny. Like, people play that game all the time. To this day, that game is still played by a ton of people, because it's just like, it's so funny to break that game. It's so funny to like do dumb stuff. But like Monkey Ball Adventure, it's not even like good in that way. It's just so bad that it's just like not even worth playing. It's kind of the issue. Like, there's not a lot of value to it besides the challenge mode.
And like it's just stable enough where it's just, it's kind of boring, but it's just not. It has enough problems. For example, the collision to annoy you. For example, right. I like when I plan my jumps, I land on a bouncy flower, and it doesn't bounce me enough, and I just fall in the water and die. Like, that's nice. What's up with that?
Yeah, it's almost just a situation where it's not bad enough to be funny, but it's also just not good enough to be good either. So it's in just this like middle grey area, which is just like not where you want to be, because that's where like games just don't get remembered.
That's true. Okay, anything else we could bring up about the actual game's design? Because I think what we should do after that, so we should start bringing up like ideas of how to make like a Adventure 2 or something.
Well, one thing I want to say is that I absolutely hated those levels where you were using Sticky Ball and going up like a massive tower or something. Those were like some of the worst levels. I hated that. There's one in the like city level where it's like a maze as well, and just like sometimes you just randomly have to restart the entire thing. And you can't just restart from a menu either. You actually have to go to the NPC. So annoying.
And not only that, but like they make you go back later, and it's just like, I have a message for so and so, and the guy moved to the top of the building, so you have to go through the maze again.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It's one of those situations again where I feel like they knew it was bad, and they were just messing with you at that point. Like, it's so annoying.
Yeah.
It's so awful. It's like, you're not, like, the sticky ball stuff is not even a bad idea. Like, Mario Galaxy kind of did this anti-gravity thing a few years later, but, like, you're doing fun stuff. Like, if it was, like, imagine something big was, like, a monkey ball type of level, almost. Like, you're anti-gravity, but there's, like, bumpers you gotta avoid. And this is assuming, like, you get fair checkpoints. There's, like, bumpers you gotta avoid. There's, like, you're moving kind of fast, right? Like, it wasn't a bad idea, but the way they did it was so awful that it's, like, it's probably one of the worst things I've done in a video game. And I've said that so many times over the years, but I mean it this time. That's so bad.
I know, particularly in the final one, there's like a wall that's like, they called it from like the wrong side, so you see through the wall instead of like, seeing like the actual wall. Yeah. So you will just die. It's like, good job, guys.
It's really I don't know what happened in game design. Like, my theory is that the testers did not get to that portion. They didn't get to like the sticky ball portions. My theory, because I doubt no one tested this game, right? There are people who tested it. I'm sure there were. I feel like they played Jungle Island or Zootopia.
Even the testers couldn't put up with it. They just gave up.
Because I feel like I feel like no tester, no casual player giving their thoughts would sit down and seriously say that part of the game is good. There's no way. You're not going to convince me otherwise, unless they were purely concerned about functionality, which is possible.
That's true. Actually, I was playing this really bad Rugrats game that's like really awful. I found out the game has...
I literally fell asleep watching him play it.
That game has 30+ testers. Think about it.
Oh my god.
I don't understand.
I'm gonna look up how many people tested this game actually right now.
But yeah, I guess one thing that I heard a lot of complaints about that you haven't discussed yet is the noise machine. Like,
yes.
The entire concept.
It completely drowns out the music too. And like Moonhaven is Monkeytropolis is arguably the best original song in the game, and you can't even hear it because they're blasting noises over it. Even, might I add, after you fix the problem where you complete the world and it's just like, oh, now they're friends again or whatever, they're still playing the noises because this is something across the entire game, is that, you know, they didn't bother to change anything in the world after you beat the plot there. So it's like all the problems are still there. Like I said earlier, Zootopia, you know, it's like, now the gates are open. They very cleverly position the camera, might I add, so that, you know, you can't see the gates. Or it's like, the gates are open, but nobody's leaving because they just want the option. I was like, okay, so you're telling me, so these people have been there for, you know, weeks at this point, right? And they're like, yeah, I've been on this roller coaster for 3 weeks now, and, you know, I'm not having fun anymore, but you know what? Now that the gates are open, let me just stay here because I just want the option to leave. And it's like, okay, so you very clearly do not want to empty the park at the end, even though all the missions are done at this point.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. It's funny because, like, you hear dialogue like, they've been on the bumper cars and they've been puking everywhere, but it's like, nah, I don't want to leave. It's like, what?
Exactly. That's just bad writing. And the Monkeytropolis is the same problem. It's like, oh man, we're friends again, but we're still blasting noises, and the sun is still chained up, and everything is the same as it was, even after you finish the plot. Like, this game is just bad writing.
All what changes is that the room opens, I think, and that's it.
Exactly.
I think the sound going off in Monkeytropolis is like the core like example. It's the perfect analogy for how this game was like developed. Like, they didn't think about how that's freaking annoying to listen to. Like, they just didn't, like, okay, I get what you're going for. The world's in chaos. Ears are hurting. But you have a player playing the game. You're not making this game for the people, like, in the world. This is a game that people are going to sit down and play. They didn't think about this from a game design perspective, how that would just be freaking annoying.
And again, I wouldn't mind it if it was when you first got there were noises.
I would.
But like, I think having it for the first mission until, you know, you actually go to Congrelaw. Once you unlock Congrelaw, the sounds should have like shut off or something, because like you successfully driven them back to their place, and like, you know, now the sounds can turn off. Like, I kind of get it. I kind of get what they're going for, and if they actually bothered to turn it off at that point to fit with what's happening in the story, I wouldn't mind. It's just that they didn't, right. And now you just have this, I never want to go to Monkeytropolis because, like, man, now I just have to mute my TV.
Yeah, I was thinking about, as this conversation was going on, I was thinking about even more things. One of them is talking about just the monkey characters in general, and how they're like, you know, they have all these people that draw all these like concept arts for these monkeys, you know. It's like, okay, here's like 1 million monkey characters, and when they get to the actual game, because it's so rushed, like half of them are just EiEi, wearing like a different outfit, and like just always
that is weird.
They're all EiEi, Gongon, or Mimi clones. I think there's a few baby clones somewhere in the game.
It just makes me feel bad, because like, you see what his concept art, and it's like, oh, that looks kind of interesting, and you get to like the actual game, and it's just like, oh, it's just EiEi.
It makes me wonder what the actual development of this game was like, because, I mean, like, obviously the developers knew that it was, like, not finished, right, with all of these, like, little things. But it makes me wonder, like, did it originally start development as a standard Monkey Ball game, and that's what the challenge levels are, and, like, the mini-games? Because surely if they started the game working on the story mode, it would have been better than that, and it probably wouldn't have had a challenge mode, because they were, like, putting everything into the story mode, right?
Well, I was reading interviews, right, and, like, they originally, it was actually original. They wanted to make a adventure game, and that's why they commissioned Traveler's Tales to do it, because they're like, okay, Traveler's Tales, you've done stuff like this before, you've done spin-off games, so why don't you make this?
Right. One detail
like,
I find interesting about that is that there's actually an unused level in Monkey Ball 2 that looks like kind of like a hub world area. It's like this huge open map.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder if like they toyed around with the idea for Monkey Ball 2, but they wanted to see it expanded, so that they obviously contacted Traveler's Tales. It's my theory, at least.
They contacted the people who did those ball rolling levels in Crash Wrath of Cortex. They'll know what
there we go. They know what they're doing.
Which, might I add, funnily enough, is Monkey Ball Adventure is about the last time Sega ever worked with Traveler's Tales. So I'd like to think that it's just...
last time, I think.
So it's just like, oh man, they made a really 4 out of 10 game, so I guess we aren't working with them anymore. Decade-long relationship ended.
I mean, they did make Sonic R, so that might be, you know, they might not have been in good terms.
I think Sega and Traveler's Tales just never had that good of a relationship. Like, I honestly, like, if you look back, there really weren't a ton of great collaborations between these two. You have Sonic 3D Blast, which is, like, fine. And then you have, like, Sonic R, which is, like, below average. Like, I feel like these two they didn't mesh. I feel like these two companies just never were, like, it's not like Rare and Nintendo, where it's, like, Rare and Nintendo were, like, a match made in heaven. Like, you need these two together. But, like, I don't know. I feel like, honestly, it was kind of like a toxic relationship. It's probably the best way.
It's always felt like...
I think it was more like Traveler's Tales was cheap, so... Sega decided, we'll just use Traveler's Tales. They're like the Walmart option of game developers.
It's just funny because like the thing about Traveler's Tales is that they're always good at like the technical aspects, but they always like fail at like the actual game design aspects. Like you see all these games, like the Game Hut channel is a very good example. And it's like you have all these things like, oh, they did all this impressive tech with the Genesis, and you play the actual game and you're like, it's okay. Like I don't know, they're really good at like game development. They're way good at like game design now. It's kind of a shame.
And then they found a formula with Lego Star Wars, or like the Lego games, and that's all they stuck to. Like, well, I think we found something we're good at, so I guess we might as well just stick to that forever.
They finally made one good game.
They have not made a non-Lego game in like what, like 13 years?
I don't blame them.
Like I was doing the research for this review. They haven't done a non-Lego game since like 2009.
Yeah, I'm looking at their game catalog now. And let me see. The last time they made a non-Lego game was, get this, 21 games ago. 21 games ago.
What was the last game?
And it was Spy Hunter, which was a car racing game on PS4.
What I want to go out
great
on.
Game.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the worst thing about Traveler's Tales is what they've done to the logo. Like, what's with the new logo? I hate that.
TT.
That's like the biggest downgrade in logo history.
I don't know. I don't. Maybe just because I never played any Traveler's Tales games before they changed the logo, but I don't mind it personally. I mean,
it's not a bad logo. It's just nowhere near as good as the original one.
Yeah, I always wanted to see a game that actually had
Traveler's
that character
Tales
in it. Like Traveler's Tales should have done a game featuring the guy from the logo.
They kind of did, but it wasn't good.
Oh right, really? Oh,
well,
they stole my idea.
The thing too.
Damn.
The thing too is Traveler's Tales was bought by TT Games. And TT Games is a subsidiary of Warner Bros. So that new logo was actually the logo of TT Games.
Oh, so it doesn't even stand for Traveler's Tales. What did it originally stand for then?
No, that's what happened was Traveler's Tales merged with another company. I'm forgetting its name right now.
Oh, and then they changed it to TT.
Well, yeah, so they merged with some game publisher. They formed TT Games. Traveler's Tales still was a development team under TT Games. And then TT Games is under Warner Bros. So, you know, they're like the tertiary, you know, layer, I guess, of the company. So they're still around. It's just that when you see TT, it stands for TT Games,
right,
and not Traveler's Tales.
Right, okay. But everybody assumes that that's what it stands for, I guess.
Right,
definitely
because
what
that's
I
what everyone
assumed
knew them for, so...
Yeah, because that's always the logo that they use these days, so you kind of just assume.
It's kind of confusing. So they actually changed it right before Sega commissioned them, which is kind of funny how much commission stuff Sega does. For example, THQ did a lot of their ports, and it's kind of funny. THQ, you have a 50-50 chance of making a quality spin-off at that point.
That's fair.
And then they did several Traveler's Tales, obviously, I guess if they were, like, on a budget or something. Because Monkey Ball Adventure wasn't meant to be, like, this big game. It was supposed to be, like, a side project that Sega of Europe was just like, oh, yeah, let's see what happens if we made an adventure game. Traveler's Tales make that for us.
And I suppose, you know, if you do actually look at it like that, it kind of makes the situation a little bit better. Like, because when you think, like, oh yeah, we've got Super Monkey Ball Adventure and it's a little bit lame, but then we did have the proper Super Monkey Ball game coming out with Banana Blitz, which in my opinion is also very, very lame. I think it's even worse than Adventure, actually. But yeah, we didn't know that at the time.
It's pretty funny to think that both of the games end up being horrible.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing to an extent. Not really the same thing, but it reminds me of, like, Secret Rings in 06, like how they split development teams, and it just, like, both games kind of just ended up being trash in the end, you know?
I would argue Secret Rings is better, but that doesn't mean it's...
I would argue all four are bad games.
Yeah, at least Secret Rings has, like, the party mode, which is actually pretty alright, but most people don't remember that.
I will say it is a nice touch, though, that for a side project, Traveler's Tales did add the party games and challenge mode, to your point, Pixel. I think that was a good addition.
I appreciated that.
Because they're just like, well, you know, and they didn't just, like, recycle the same stuff. You know, they made brand new target maps. They, you know, they made, like, arguably the best iteration of Monkey Race. You know, with the new power-ups.
The only issue with Monkey Race is that the tracks all look the same.
They do.
If it wasn't for that, I'd say it's, like, up there.
The thing is with that, though, is that isn't it a bit weird how, like, the story mode feels, like, so unfinished, yet they somehow had the time to make a challenge mode and put mini-games in there. Like, I kind of would have rather it have not have had those things and then polished the main game up. It's kind of weird.
Well, yeah, the thing, though, is challenge mode, metaphorically, could be made in an afternoon, you know? It's...
Yeah, I suppose so. It might not have taken that many
resources. It did not take that much, because you just, like, alright, we have the puzzle stages, just... throw them into mode back-to-back, throw in a life system.
Yeah, true.
You can tell it was an afterthought, though, because they didn't even have extra stages. I don't even think you can game over, but, like, there's no punishment for using a continue or anything. It's literally just a marathon mode.
And it reuses the music from Super Monkey Ball 2, right? I'm pretty sure I remember that.
Yeah, or Monkey Ball 1.
1 and 2,
yeah.
Monkey Ball 1.
So you just do all that, boom, new mode.
So I think it's just another feature that they can add to the back of the box, you know, so...
Yeah,
like,
probably, and it turns out that that's the best mode of the game, so it's probably a good job that they did that in the end.
And then there's Monkey Trumps, which is the best minigame that they ever programmed.
Yeah...
I don't think Pixel even knows about that one yet.
That's the mode that's exclusive to the PSP, right? Yeah, I did read into that, but I never, like, properly looked into it, because in fact, getting all of the, like, trump cards unlocks future EiEi, right? I seem to remember that.
I have no clue what unlocks. I think what unlocks future EiEi is data transfer. I'm not 100% sure, because no one knows for sure, but all I know is that I have future EiEi, and I've neither collected all the trump cards or 100% of the game.
Oh, right.
Two ways I've heard. They do. I did use a cheat code to get all the trump cards, so maybe that did it. I don't know.
So, is there theoretically a way of unlocking future EiEi in the GameCube version? Like, is there a way of like using Game Shark or anything? It's literally impossible. Like, does he not exist in the game's files?
I suppose future EiEi, you know, they have the model and whatnot in the game still, so...
Oh, so it is in there, so theoretically it would be possible.
Considering how unpolished this game is, I would not be surprised if they have all the files necessary, they just cut the line of code that
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Fair. I guess I'll transition into Future EiEi. Future EiEi is interesting because, you know, besides just being like a different character to use, it's actually a New Game Plus mode for story mode.
Oh, really? That's actually quite cool.
Yeah, too bad you can't use it in the GameCube version.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But like you have all the chants unlocked from the start except the warp chants.
Yeah, so you just do the entire game in order, pretty much.
That would make the game a lot better if you could do that, to be honest.
Yeah, it just makes it even more funny. It also makes sense for the character to have, you know, all the chants.
Yeah. You know, that is one thing I did like, that like little bit of lore, how like there's like a future version of EiEi now, because obviously that's where Baby comes from. I like how they like kind of tied that together a little bit.
Honestly, I like how, you know, going with the Mysterious Traveler, I like the crazy timeline that that, you know, they had from the canonical lore book or whatever from AV. I really do like, you know, how wacky that story is like. And then Gongon and EiEi started a successful company that sold prototypes of their balls in the future. I was like, okay, whatever. You know?
It's cool stuff. It doesn't, like, do that much for me, personally. Like, I kind of just don't care, but I can at least respect them for, like, adding it in. Like, it's a nice touch. And I do appreciate them taking something from, like, the lore aspect.
I honestly wish there was more of, like, the time travel aspect, because it's, like, it's toyed around with, like, a little bit. It's more toyed around with in the PSP version with the Mysterious Traveler, but, like, it just, like, I don't know, it would be cool if there was more of it, because I don't know if you know that much about the Mysterious Traveler pixel at all, but basically there's a character in the PSP version of the game, because of course it's only in the PSP version, where it's like this, like, old guy or whatever that you can see hidden in, like, areas of the map. Like, it's basically supposed to be like a post-game award, because you need, like, the hover ball and stuff to get to it.
Okay.
He literally just like explains the deep lore of the Monkey Ball franchise, basically.
Oh, right,
like,
yeah. I think I remember reading like all of his dialogue on like some kind of Super Monkey Ball wiki page or something.
Yeah, just like pages and pages of just like actual just lore dialogue. Like, oh, Dr. Bad Boom was actually named this, and he hated EiEi and was jealous, so he like grew up and you know whatever. It's just like.
Yeah, I mean,
why?
To give Super Monkey Ball Adventure some credit, it is the one where we get the most detailed lore out of any of them. So there's that. Yeah. It's got that going for it.
That is true.
I will say that that like, you know, I know Ninja was saying like, what would we do to fix this game or make a sequel or whatever. You know, they have Bad Boon if they really were to, like, let's just say, because this is already in the story, right? Bad Boon goes back in time or whatever, and Baby follows him. But then, like, why not have, like, Bad Boon kidnap Baby or whatnot and go through the world causing havoc and ruining everything, and then you have to go back in time and stop him or whatever. That's at least a story that I could get behind, right? So, like...
Yeah, like, you play as Baby or something, and just, like...
Or, like, you play as future EiEi or something.
That'd be cool.
I'm gonna say that I'm gonna go with the devil's advocate kind of maybe negative take here. I don't think you could do Monkey Ball Adventure in this day and age. I think Monkey Ball has taken too many hits over the years. At the time that Monkey Ball came out, or Adventure came out, the series was very, very loved, and there was not a lot of bad games. Like, sure, there was like N-Gage and like a few crappy mobile games that no one played. But, like, the series was respected at the time. I feel like nowadays Monkey Ball is in this weird state where it, like, has to constantly prove its worth again. And I think if you do something like Adventure again, you just kind of can't. I really don't see a way.
It definitely does need. It definitely does need one or two good original games, you know, or original style games that you would need before you could do something like Adventure. But, like, even then.
That being said. I don't think you could make it like an Adventure 2. I think you would need to just make it a different, like an Odyssey type of game, or like if you want to do an open world Monkey Ball game, it can't be like anywhere near Adventure. I think the team can't do that again.
I don't think they would do it again though, because like ever since the rebrand, they pretty much like, it's funny because a Twitter account did actually recently confirm the you know, part of the lore as being canon. Actually, they did confirm that on the Japanese Twitter account like a week ago, which is funny. But like even then, it's just like they've tried to, you know, make the series all cute and like the monkeys don't talk, and like, you know, they kind of treat EiEi as like the baby of the Sega family or whatever, where like he's always just being cute and not talking, and like all his problems are very trivial, like, oh no, a cat or whatever stole his banana or whatever, you know? Like, I feel like they wouldn't even do any serious story in an adventure today.
I think the thing is now, the reason that they would never do anything like that is because they've got the benefit of hindsight. Like, they can see where the series went massively downhill, like by having an adventure mode, by having like a focus on motion controls and bosses and jumping. And with all of that hindsight, they're just focusing on like the core gameplay now, like by making games that are basically similar to the first two.
Right. That's what you have to do. I don't think you could do something so experimental right now.
Which is sad.
Definitely not right now. I could see them making I could see them doing like a story mode where there's like a world map or something.
Yeah, I could see that.
But they definitely wouldn't make it like a, you know, full-on adventure-like game. I think that's fine. I think what worries me more about like a sequel is just that Monkey Ball is like so sanitized now. Like they really don't want there to be like anything that isn't just like, I don't know. I don't like the new Monkey Ball Dashing where it's like, I don't like the focus on making everything like really like accessible. Like I like, you know, like stuff like, you know, like the options where it's like, oh, you can slow down the game, whatever. But I don't like the stuff like the infinite lives.
It's like, oh, you can just skip a level if you want, you know.
I don't like that. I don't like I'd hate how they're trying to like make it not as challenging, and I feel like that might end up going badly in the end if they don't
It's kind of like a new Super Mario Brothers approach at this point. Like they've made everything simpler. They've changed the designs so they're like kind of boring. It's just like they've just made the series kind of. You know, it has that vibe, and I don't think I can describe it very well. But there's a lot of parallels between those two right now.
Yeah, it's like the more generic they try to make Monkey Ball, like the worse it's gonna. I feel like they need to focus the less on that. They need to become more, you know. I feel like they need to focus more on it being like a hardcore challenging series.
Yeah, I think like, the issue with it being so accessible, like in a lot of ways that's obviously a good thing, but the issue with it is that it just makes it less memorable, because like you don't get stuck on a level and like therefore like remember that level, and like it just becomes like iconic, like Arthropod. But like if Arthropod was like new and we hadn't played it in the original ones, the ability to just like skip it completely, like it wouldn't stand out as an iconic level anymore, because everybody would just skip it and not remember it at all.
It would just be like, oh, it's that stage, and then you move on. Like,
yeah.
I think there's players. I remember Arlo did a review, and he said basically like, I have no motivation to return. Or it was either him or Nathaniel.
It was
all these
Arlo.
YouTubers.
It was Arlo.
Okay. He basically said, I have no motivation to return to this. Like, I was glad to get a review code, but I have like no motivation to return to this game because it's too easy and it's too accessible and there's no challenge.
We're
kind of getting off topic here. We're kind of getting into like what's the next game overall.
Yeah, that's true.
Talking about adventure.
That's true.
But it does technically relate because we're getting to the point that you can't do adventure right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like these games do need to be more difficult. That's like what grew the series. It started it as an arcade game, and Banana Mania was way too easy.
I guess what we could do is just like, okay, let's say Sega said we're greenlighting Monkey Ball Adventure 2 because apparently they just don't make good decisions ever. But let's say they did that. Let's say, you know what? I hate money. Let's spend money to make Monkey Ball Adventure 2.
Let's just say theoretically then, if it was like a similar situation to Adventure 1, who would they get to develop Adventure 2?
It's a good point.
I mean,
feel like at this point they would just do it
suppose-
in-house these days.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Atlas, let's go.
that should be a good game,
I can see it.
Monkey Ball RPG.
That'd be sick. I'd buy it.
No, that should be a good game though. That's not what we're trying to. I don't know.
There aren't really any like companies that do what Traveler's Tales did. Like they're like licensed games don't really exist anymore. Like as at least anywhere near the same level that they used to. So like I don't know. There's no like prominent developer that's like in the same place that Traveler's Tales was. It's weird.
I suppose you could go to THQ Nordic.
Yeah, I suppose
There's
they're
like
probably
one
the closest
developer-
thing. Yeah.
There's only like one developer I can think of that still makes the licensed games, and it's like Outright Games. And that's the only people I think that still make them, like regularly. But I think that's literally because they made that Hotel Transylvania game. That Jeff
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of when I was saying like they don't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's that, and there was like a Fast and Furious game or something that came out recently. I don't know
That
who
was
made
so
that. I
bad.
don't even know if it's any good. Probably not. But yeah, there's not many.
No.
Yeah,
But-
and that's the biggest problem. Well, I'd say THQ Nordic might be the best, company for the job if they were to outsource it.
Yeah.
I feel like they wouldn't outsource it if it was me, but
No, they probably wouldn't outsource it now because there's nobody to outsource it to.
No, especially because they do one game at a time now. Like at the time, again, we have to remember Banana Blitz was in progression. So like they have really no reason to do that nowadays. They're not going to be rushing out 2 Monkey Ball games in the same year, probably ever again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Touch and Roll, Adventure, and Banana Blitz all came out within a year, remember?
So they don't really have to outsource it, so they wouldn't.
I'd say that they wouldn't. So I guess I don't know. What would you think the game would be like if they made it today?
It depends how much they took from the original. If they tried to be like a faithful sequel and took too many, I think you would have to just make it. I don't think you could do the same idea as it. If I'm being honest, you would have to make it something more like maybe. I don't know. I want to say like Odyssey is the best comparison.
If I
something like that.
If I wanted to have a guess of how they should make it, they should. I feel like instead of it being like an open world game, there would have be like different different islands that are like different worlds or something. I feel like it would be like a stage by stage kind of game. I don't think it would
That
be
might
like
work better.
full-
Yeah, I can see that.
Because it would make more sense if it's just like get to the end of the stage quickly, and it's more of like a I don't know how to describe it, but like
Kind of like Crash
played, like,
Bandicoot,
Packet, like-
but you're in a ball.
yeah. I ever put like pack and roll. It would be like maybe like that or something.
Yeah.
But like with Monkey
Maybe
Ball.
like Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Yeah,
type of
yeah,
thing.
something like that.
Those were like open world levels, but they were like in levels, you know?
I feel like that would work a lot better for the concept. I feel like trying to make an open world Monkey Ball game would be way too difficult.
You could even do something like Jet Set Radio, I think, with Monkey Ball. And I'm not saying like you do the tricks, but like just an open world that's fun to interact with. You can do like tricks and there's ramps and you're defeating like enemies or something. And it's just like there's also a score element involved and like something like
Which is
that,
funny because
It
a
doesn't have
parallel
to
that
be,
I drew
like-
in my review was to the Tony Hawk games because of how similarly adventure in the Tony Hawk games are structured, but it's just that the Tony Hawk games are
That's
actually
fair.
good.
Yeah, I mean, they could do like, how every mission is just like talk to a person and like do some task in return. They could do a thing like, let's say there's like I've always had this analogy, I don't know why, but it's like, let's say like there's like a bridge or something. There's like a log like covering the bridge, so you can't get past. Like, so then you have to like explore the island to like break 2 ropes to drop the log or something. Like, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, like that would be
probably work.
good to have some more like interactivity with the world as well, like you were saying. Like nothing really changes in adventure. It'd be nice if you could actually do something.
Like if they focused more on like literal puzzle solving, it'd probably be a bit better
Yeah.
than like just go do this task for me, please. Go pick up a bunch of banana peels and come back. It's like, okay. Whatever.
Exactly.
I think I'm gonna go back to this. My original answer. I don't think I don't think you could do an adventure 2 at all because I don't know. It wasn't a success, and I think hindsight, like Cardino or Pixel were saying, was like it's just you can't do this again. If there's gonna be an adventure 2, quote unquote, it's not gonna be anything like adventure.
That
will
is
be a
kinda true.
different game. And if they do adventure 2, I have no I'm very confused what's going on in that headquarters.
I don't think anyone knows what's going on in the headquarters, to be fair. So.
Let's not forget, they ported Persona 4 Golden to Steam, then said, "Oh, we were surprised that people actually bought it."
I love how like I think what I love is that every like couple months is always like Atlas wants to know what games you want on the Switch. It's like I wonder, I really do.
Exactly.
They know which game. It's kind of becoming the new like it's kind of like a Mother 3 thing where I feel like they know it's a meme and they just like don't care. It's kind of how I see it.
I think it'll
It's
happen.
interesting.
It's gotta happen. like reasonably soon. I think
it's a bunch of money for them. I'm just saying, if they want money, you know, put it on. You're gonna sell like at least 1 million copies, probably. But
I guess
I don't know. Maybe they don't. I guess they don't want money. That's pretty much the takeaway. Like, you guys, that's the freest money I think anyone will ever make. It's just like port it, downgrade it a bit, whatever. And there you go. You sold like 1 million copies minimum. But I guess it's not a good idea to them. Like, I don't know.
They should port Monkey Ball Adventure to Switch. I wonder how many copies it would sell.
You know what's funny, and I don't remember if I talked about this in my review, was that there's a poll. There was the poll, and Monkey Ball was like, which game do you want to see remastered? And it's like, Monkey Ball 1, Monkey Ball 2, Monkey Ball, I think 3D was on there. And then I was like, Monkey Ball Adventure. Like, no way you guys, no way in hell you guys.
With that, why did they choose those specific games? Like, that's such a weird, set of games for them to choose.
If I had to guess, it's because the Twitter account had like the ways you could submit questions. I always saw questions like, you know, adventure and stuff. And, like,
why are people asking about Super Monkey Ball Adventure? Why would people do that?
Because it's a great game. That's why.
I really think there's a part of the fan base again who played like Jungle Island and a little bit of Zootopia, have nostalgic memories for the game, and that's pretty much where their experience lies. Or they just, like, it could be as simple as, like, they just have nostalgia for it and never played it as an adult, you know? I think there exists a crowd of that out there. I really do, because I do see people say good things about this game. But I think they are blinded by nostalgia. I think if anyone played this game nowadays, they'd hate it. Like, if anyone's listening this far in, if you like Monkey Ball Adventure,
you don't.
Play it again before you say you like it.
You don't.
Play it again, please. If you swear to us we're crazy and you like this game, I give you a challenge, okay? Play it all the way through in 2022 and like leave a comment about what you like about the game, because I don't understand it. All right, I'm gonna leave that as a challenge to anyone who wants to like do that.
Exactly. Oh wait, the 0 comments from anyone that
I guess if I were to guess for what we've seen on Monkey Ball Adventure 2. I guess a world map would probably be the most likely thing to do. Like, do you think they would focus more on missions again, or do you think they would focus more on, like, you know, platforming, or...
I think it would be a similar situation to the new Kirby, where it was just like a kind of linear level that was a little bit open, and you just had, like, hidden, like, collectibles to find and stuff, maybe.
They could theoretically have, like, areas that have missions, but then you could, like, separate those with, like, kind of somewhat lengthy platforming sections. That could kind of work, I guess. You know, have it be like a giant island that's like semi-linear. It's like, oh, you gotta like do, I don't know, like have some kind of like banana collectible or something for like a shop. Like, let's say you earn like X amount of bananas, and it's like, oh, you can buy like a jump ability, which is there's actually an unused jump in Adventure. I don't know if you use it.
How weird is it that Adventure doesn't have a jump and Banana Blitz does? Like, that's completely backwards. It should have been the other way around. Adventure should have had the jump, and Banana Blitz should have been made without the jump in mind. Both games would have been
better. An unused jump feature in the game. It was just not in the full game.
I think one other thing, Carter, you're asking if they would do missions again. I'm gonna give another reason they wouldn't. The mission design philosophy was a thing of its time. I feel like there's a lot of games around this time that were just straight up like this type of thing, or like maybe the earlier GTAs. Jack 2, this game reminds me of a lot. Pixel talked about like the Tony Hawk games. Like, I feel like these types of games don't really happen anymore, where it's like, you know, I feel like Monkey Ball Adventure has like a really antiquated design philosophy. I think nowadays people want their like quick fixes where you're just going through a level, you're doing a little platform and you get a collectible maybe. I don't know if people really would be interested in an idea where like you do tasks for people. Like, that's, I just feel like those games aren't as common nowadays, you know?
Yeah, and even with stuff like the Tony Hawk series, the most recent game is a remake of the ones that didn't have those missions. So it's like, everybody now just wants it to go back to basics.
That's because we're at the point where, you know, older people that are nostalgic for those kind of games are like, wow, this is when game design is actually good. Can I play this instead, please?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, sure, whatever. And then immediately after, we'll make you work on Call of Duty Warzone forever. But, you know, you wish you made Tony Hawk before that happened.
I hate that. I hate that.
But yeah, I don't know. I
so
feel
that's
like
my answer. I just don't think there will ever be a Monkey Ball Adventure 2, and if it does exist in name, it will not be anything. It may as well not be a sequel, is my prediction.
I feel like they're gonna keep making normal Monkey Ball games until like I feel like they're not gonna make like Monkey Ball like games. I feel like forever. They have to have some kind of shake up eventually.
I feel like the next Super Monkey Ball game, they really need to prove that they can actually make an original Super Monkey Ball game to a similar level of quality to the originals, because they've not really ever done that. They've never matched the quality of Super Monkey Ball 1 or 2.
I think the next
big challenge.
I think the next game, and I've heard that the developers want to do a new game. I feel like the next game is going to be the closest we're going to get to Monkey Ball 3.
Yeah.
You know, outside of the whole Banana Crazy controversy. I think this is going to be like the closest we get to a Monkey Ball 3.
I would kind of like for the next one to be called Super Monkey Ball 3. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
it would instantly tell you what it was as well.
What? They call it. They could call it Banana Crazy, just like full meme.
Yeah, maybe.
They always love using banana in the names, so I feel like they would do something like that.
That's the American branch, though, for some reason, and the European branch. But from what I've heard, European just kind of follows what America does.
Unless it involves Kirby, then they censor the word.
Well, that's what I meant. I meant Sega.
Wait, no, it was Canvas. It wasn't like. What was it? Which one was like?
Oh god, I don't remember.
It was the Wii U game that they censored the name.
It was a DS one and a Wii U one. They changed the word curse into. Oh, it was power, wasn't it? Like power paintbrush or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I still like the Yoshi's tilt. Whatever it was called,
universal
gravitation in the UK.
I've not heard of that. What was that? What was that from?
It was Yoshi's. It was Yoshi Tipsy Turvy, and it was at the game. It was a Game Boy game, I believe, that had like a gyroscope in like the cartridge, and like you tilt the GBA, and like the entire world would tilt. But like in the PAL regions, they called it Yoshi's Universal Gravitation for some reason.
That is so weird. I've never heard of that game.
That does sound like a very like European.
It's probably because in America it's called Tipsy Turvy.
Topsy Turvy.
Topsy Turvy. Oh, okay. I was going to say that maybe the reason was that tipsy is like a phrase when you're getting drunk, but it's not even called that, so I've got no idea. Topsy Turvy is a phrase here, drunk. So I don't know why they changed it.
But yeah.
Who knows? And then, but basically, I remember they were saying like, you know, in Japan, Banana Mania is called 1 and 2 Remake, which I don't think was a bad name. You know, it clearly says what it is. But then America was just like, yeah, but we want to get new people in there, and like we're afraid that if they say it's a remake of 1 and 2, it'll scare them off. So let's call it Banana Mania. It's like, why would 1 and 2 remakes scare people off?
Yeah, and also all of the branding was about how it was a remake of 1 and 2. So, like, if they were scared of that, they probably should have thought of that, too.
I feel like at this point, putting banana in the title scares people off more than anything else would.
It does, because there's an inherent, thing where your mind is going to be like, oh, Banana Blitz, like, you know, stuff like that. No.
It also doesn't help the fact that, you know, there's Banana Blitz and Banana Mania, both with very similar, like, aesthetics.
The titles are getting too similar. The titles are getting too similar. It's feeling kind of like New Super Mario Brothers at this point to make that comparison again, where it's like New Super Mario Brothers, and then New Super Mario Brothers Wii, and then New Super Mario Brothers 2, and it's like, and then New Super Mario Brothers U. It's like, what is happening?
I will say, Banana Blitz and Banana Splits is probably the worst example.
Yeah.
At least they're on completely different platforms, though. I think that kind of gets away with it a little bit more.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good name though.
Well, Banana Blitz, because Banana Blitz and Banana Mania are like all on the same, or the HD remake are all on the same consoles. So.
Yeah, that's
well.
confusing.
Remember too, it was the U.S. that named it Banana Blitz too, because in Japan it was called like Monkey Ball Party Game Pack or something. Like it was an emphasis on the party games.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
And so then the U.S. renamed it to Banana Blitz.
To be fair, I think Banana Blitz is a better title.
Yeah,
I'll give us credit for that.
I think Banana Mania is also a good title, if you want my honest opinion.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's a reference to Sonic Mania. That's the real point of the title.
I'm totally okay with that title. I prefer it over 1 and 2 Remake just because it sounds better to me.
So yeah.
Well, now we're really getting off topic.
Yeah, we always do this.
You know,
they should make Super Monkey Ball Adventure 2 Battle, where there's an evil future EiEi becomes evil.
I would like that.
Future EiEi becomes evil. That'd be really funny.
That'd be a good plot point. And it could also still be about time travel. I don't know, that could kind of work.
You know, the moment time travel gets involved in your games, everything becomes much more convoluted, many more plot holes, and it just becomes better in every way if you don't take yourself seriously.
True.
Which is what I want Monkey Ball to do, which is why I'm saying they should do some more between, you know, adventure and like, you know, the time travel gimmick, because, like, you know, adventure is arguably at the end of the timeline right now, because Banana Mania, I don't know if that's canon or not.
I don't think it is.
The Twitter account did confirm, though, which is why I'm saying they reconfirmed this. The Japanese Twitter account said that Baby is still canonically from the future in Banana Mania. So it's like, where was that put it on the timeline? So anyway, that was a very good and focused discussion on Monkey Ball Adventure. Is there anything else we want to add before we close out?
I think we've pretty much covered everything. There can't be that much more to say about this game, surely.
I'm pretty much just gonna say bring Future EiEi back. That's my entire...
Yeah,
why wasn't he a skin in Banana Mania? That would have been really, really cool, actually... like kind of a deep cut reference.
I was hoping for that. I actually made a joke on Twitter about it.
Oh, right.
Sadly.
My final thing I want to say is we all have stuff coming out. Pixel already has an adventure review. Cardinal will have one out in, like, I don't know, soon. I have one out. Johnny eventually one day probably will have one. So go. There's going to be plenty of adventure content to watch. Cardinal, you should make like a playlist or something.
Yeah,
I can make a playlist.
So if you want more adventure talking about, like, there you go. We're gonna have plenty of it soon. So check all that out.
All right, and with that, thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time in about 5 years when we make episode 13.
Indeed.
Woo! See ya.